So this is basic setup number 5. Today's class, it's very simple. It's probably one of the shorter classes we have. How to assign employees to a schedule. So at this point in time, you should have your shifts created. Maybe your dashboard views created. Obviously, they might be blank because we don't actually have anyone on a schedule yet. Your rotations, all that good stuff. Today, I'm going to show you how to pretty much just put people, your employees, onto the rotations that you've created. Now, was there anyone or is there anyone in your department that couldn't kind of be covered by a rotation? I guess, do you have anyone that just kind of works like whenever, there's no rhyme or reason or set pattern to it?
Yeah, we have 2 kennel assistants that don't have a specific schedule or hours.
Okay, and with these people, I guess, how far out do you know, like, what they're working?
It's kind of week by week. The suggestion we had was to actually have them go through the system and enter it as if they were working overtime. And just make the
that is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, and the only reason why I ask is because today's class kind of covers 2 topics. 1, how to put people on existing rotations, and 2, building a custom schedule. And building a custom schedule is really for like people who have maybe like a rotation, but it's not really a pattern. It's just kind of all over the place. But for you, since you only really know like a week at a time, I would recommend either, the way you were discussing it, doing it through overtime, and, I was just setting it to like a straight pay rate, or something like that. Or you create a shift for them, and then you just manually add them to that shift, maybe each day they come in, and you can adjust their times, per day, things like that. It's up to you, whatever's easiest for you. I'll show you both ways.
Okay.
That kind of gets a little bit into training, but it certainly wouldn't hurt just to show you how to throw someone on a schedule. You could do it if you want to do it, like, say, Sunday, if you know what they're going to work for that week. Say Sunday, you just go in and put them on for the next, 5 to 7 days, whatever they're working, and you just do that once a week. Or if you want to leave it up to them, so when they get done with whatever they work, they just put it in as overtime, selecting a straight pay. Either way you want to do it, it's a valid way.
Okay.
But for the majority of your employees, we're going to use the rotations. Now, as you can see, I'm on my database. To put people on a rotation, we are first going to go to the Build Schedule menu, right here. And this is where you actually put in your rotations. Now keep in mind, if the update rotation screen is where you put in new rotations, but you can also go in there to edit any existing rotations as well. But I'm kind of getting off topic here. So you have your rotations. We want to use the screen, Add Employees to Existing Rotations, right here. Now it's going to bring us to this window. And I'll blow it up so we can see it a little bit better. So before we actually get into using this screen, I just kind of want to break down what we're looking at here. So on the top, right here, this section, these are settings for the people that we are going to add to a rotation. And we'll get into that in more detail in a second. Below is where our employees are going to show up, when we select, which employees we want to add to a rotation. So for, an example, so this is where we actually would load up their rotation, and we can assign them to a job or a specific schedule detail for, every day they're working, or a start and end time. We'll get into that in a little bit. On the right here is just a list of all the rotations that you've built in your system. Now, if we were to click on one, you see this section on the right shows us some information. That's showing us what the actual rotation is. So if for any reason, you know, you can't remember what a particular rotation is just by the name, you can click on it and see exactly what it is. So like here, you know, admin M-F, that's a basic Monday through Friday on the admin shift rotation. And up here is where we see the start date and the end date of the rotation. This date right here is only for the rotation. And you know, as you've seen in a previous class, typically when you build a rotation, you're building it out for multiple years. We're not necessarily putting someone on that rotation for multiple years. This is just kind of like how long it's going to be in the system for. So far, so good?
Yep, makes sense.
Okay. All right. So now, getting into the settings up here, this date range, because a lot of people get thrown off. They see date range up here and a date range over here. Like I said, this is just for how long the rotation is built. Here, in the top left, is where we tell the system how long they're going to be put on that rotation. We recommend, you know, you do it for the year, right? You don't really want to do it for any longer than a year, because chances are, you know, at least once a year you're going to have to go. No, excuse me. You're going to have to go in and adjust people's schedules. You know, they're rotate. Oh, man, excuse me. They might have a new rotation every year. You know, so typically you want to do it whether it's for the fiscal year or for the calendar year. So in my example, we'll just treat it as, you know, for say we're doing this for 2017, the year 2017. We know when everyone's going to work, and this is also good too, because you can put things in ahead of time, kind of like what we're going to do today. So even though it's only September of 2016, I can build my rotations for next year, because my guys are already on rotations, but I can build them for next year. So, you know, come, you know, late December or early January, whenever you, you know, adjust, put in everyone's new schedules, you know, you could do it a few days ahead of time. You don't have to wait till that actual day to do it. So for this,
like for our, like I can build a year out for most of our administrative positions, but for patrol and communications, they rotate every 12 or 14 weeks, so I can just do that in this date range, correct?
yeah, so if you know what they are, let's say, for instance, we know what everyone's working throughout the year, right? But it changes every 12 weeks, we'll say every 3 months it changes. What you could do is put in your first cycle, right? We can just make it January 1st, and it doesn't even matter. Like, say, like my Squad A rotation, it starts on the 4th. I can backdate it to the 1st. All that's going to happen is on January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, it's going to be a blank schedule, right? But you can backdate it to January 1st. And then we could do all the way to March 31st, right? 12 weeks right there. We put in our date range. Now these options with the checkboxes below, 2 of them are defaulted on. The first one, as you can see, it's defaulted to be on, is delete schedule entries. What that's doing is if someone is on a schedule already for any days between this date range, you know, from January 1st to March 31st, it's going to erase it. It's like an overwrite button. And, you know, obviously we want to do that. If someone is on a rotation already and that button isn't checked, if we put them on a new rotation, well, then they're going to belong to 2 rotations, and that's not good. The nice thing about this button is it does not delete overtime. That was like previously put in, anything like that, and it doesn't touch time off. The other checkbox does. This is just to kind of overwrite anything that's already in there for regularly scheduled work. You follow me so far?
Yep.
All right. Now the next checkbox, it is not defaulted to be on, but what this is asking is, do we want to delete time off? And you can only delete time off that hasn't been processed through payroll, which, I mean, if you're in basic setup, you don't necessarily have to worry about payroll right now. But say I'm on a Monday through Friday rotation for the year, and something changes, right? Maybe now I'm on a Sunday through Thursday rotation. If I put in for like time off on a Friday, well, I no longer need it. So by checking that box, it's going to remove all the days off that I put in for that take place between this date range, or in this date range, I should say.
So, but if they did take it off and still needed it, it's going to delete those also, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, as long as it hasn't been processed through payroll. So this will delete, any and all days off that fall in this date range that have not been processed through payroll. If you leave it unchecked, what it will do is, say I'm moving from a Monday through Friday on an A shift rotation, I'm moving to a Monday through Friday B shift rotation. Leaving that unchecked will adjust the time off. So if I put off for a day and I'm requesting off on the A shift, but I get moved to a B shift rotation, it changes that time off entry from A shift to B shift and adjusts the times that I'm taking off and all of that stuff.
Okay.
The next checkbox, we always want to leave this on. It pretty much just copies whatever the rotation we put them on into their employee profile. And that can be found if we go to the employee profile. I'll just show you where this is actually used. We select, our employee and go to application. We see what their shift rotation is. That way, if you ever need to, if you ever need to know what rotation someone's on, you don't know off the top of your head, you can just go right to their employee profile and say, okay, well, this guy's on the squad B rotation. So whenever we put someone on a rotation, we always want to make sure that we're updating their employee profile as well. For obvious reasons, we don't want to have someone on the squad C rotation, and when we move them to B, we don't update their employee profile. So if someone goes back and says, well, no, this says they're on squad B, that could lead to some confusion. As far as alternate rotations, you don't need to worry about that. Don't even worry about that checkbox. So between our date range and our 3 checkboxes over here, I typically leave delete days off unchecked because, if I'd rather my employees go in and delete the time off that they no longer need it, because like I said, it automatically converts it. But if you do absolutely want to delete all days off, you can check that box. But at the very minimum, we need the default ones that are on to stay on. So now, pretty much these are our settings, and these settings will apply to anyone that we select in this, area. So, adding someone to a rotation, when you click save and you're actually doing it, it could take a few minutes, depending on, your network connectivity, internet connection, all that stuff. It's doing a lot of work. What it's doing is, for every employee, the system is adding them to a shift for each day that they're scheduled to work based on the rotation. So if you're doing, say you have 10 employees for 300 days, the system's creating 3,000 entries for those employees. So it's doing a lot of work. So typically what I like to recommend to people, don't select all and try and do it this way. You're much better off maybe doing it by group. So I'm going to do all my squad A guys first. I click, group, squad A. I select everyone in squad A. Now I'm only dealing with 5 people. And doing it by group or even by title, that significantly speeds up the process because the system's not working as hard to put these people on the rotation. So what's going to happen now is whatever, adjustments I make in this screen down here, for these people, these settings are going to apply to just these people. All right, so you said, your admin people might be for the year, but your patrol people are going to be every 3 months, correct?
Yes.
So, you can do all your patrol first, and then when you're done, then you adjust the settings from January 1st to December 31st, and then select your admin people. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
All right, so now that we have our people, loaded up, we need to just kind of link one of these rotations to them. And to do that, it's very easy. Right here, if this is the first time you're doing this, when you pull up people, all of this will be blank. There's not going to be any information here. The only reason why I'm seeing this is because these guys are already assigned to Squad A, the Squad A rotation, I should say. And we see the rotation code right here, which is just code 1, and the rotation description, which is what we see under description. So to link a rotation to someone, just click either in the rotation code or rotation description. It doesn't matter, but we want to do it for that employee row. So if I want to change Jennifer's rotation, I select either the rotation code or description field, select my rotation, and click the green button. Or, you highlight your rotation code or description, and you can just click on the rotation and drag and drop it into where you want it. So you have two different ways to do it. I'm just going to put them all on Squad A. And what I did right there is I was just holding down the control button while I selected all my rows so I could do it all at once. And now they're going to be put on the Squad A rotation. Now, do you have anyone, maybe they're working a rotation, but they're like an early person, like they're scheduled to come in maybe half an hour earlier or anything like that?
Not at the moment.
Okay. So this start time and end time, if you leave these fields blank, these people just default to work whatever the shift hours are. So like Squad A, let me shrink this down. Oops, wrong one. So like here, my Squad A, which is PD days and PD patrol evening, it's going to default to, when they work patrol days, they're going to work 700 to 1900. When they work patrol evenings, they're going to work, where is it? No, it must have been deleted. It's going to default to whatever the shift times, the start and end times are. Now, you can only do it with a rotation that has one shift in it. Like you've seen here, they rotate between days and nights, so obviously we don't want to say, they're always going to start at this time or always end at this time because they rotate between shifts with two different times. So for like admin, if you have an admin shift that's typically 9 to 5, but maybe you have someone that works 8 to 4, you would just put in, 0800 to 1600. That way they're still going to work that shift, but they're just going to start an hour earlier. Like I said, if you leave this blank, it just goes to the default shift times.
So I can't use that if it's somebody that, say works day shift a couple days a week and evening shift a couple days a week.
Not through this screen, no.
Okay.
Yeah, it has to be for a rotation that's just tied to one shift, kind of like a Monday through Friday admin shift. All right, 5 on, 2 off, just the admin shift. Now, if you have any job assignments where someone's permanently assigned to that job, maybe like Jennifer is always going to be, the Zone 1 person, you can select the job assignment through this drop-down, and what that's going to do is every day she's scheduled to work, she's going to be assigned to the Zone 1 job. Now, if your department has people kind of bouncing around, different job assignments, whether it's weekly or daily maybe, just leave it blank. The same thing for details. If you have any scheduled details in, like a car or an equipment assignment that's permanently assigned to someone for like the year or whenever they work, you click on details, and then you could select the scheduled detail type from this drop down. So say she's always going to be assigned to car 1. I could just drag and drop car 1 in. I click select and close. And now, for whenever she's scheduled to work, she's going to be assigned to car 1. And now, because details, we might have, more than just a car, say, let's see. She's always going to be assigned to rifle 1 every day she works. So now she has car 1 and rifle 1 assigned to her. Like I said, this is only for like permanent assignments. If people rotate, leave them blank. Now when you're done, you just click apply, and give it a few minutes. Be patient. If you do, happen to click anywhere while it's loading, you might see like a not responding message up here. It's still working. That's just like a default thing Windows programs do. It's kind of like, hey, don't click me. I'm working. So just be patient. Let it do its thing. And when it's done, you're going to get a pop-up that says Save and Build Finished. You click OK, and then you move right along to the next group. But this part's important. When you're done and you're going to select your next batch of people, like I just did my Squad A people, now I'm going to do my Squad B people. When I click Select Employees, notice these people still have their names checked. We want to clear these people out of the list. We want to clear all the Squad A people out. So I'm going to click None, which clears out everything, and then select my next group. Because what would happen is if I didn't do that and say, all right, now I'm going to do Squad C, my Squad B people are still there, so you might accidentally overwrite them with wrong information. So always make sure when you're changing the group of people you're working with, just click None to clear out everything, and then select your next group of people. So far, so good?
Yep, good to go.
I mean, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it for as far as, using this screen to add people to a rotation. The next thing I'm going to show you, this is a little, this isn't really involved in the class, but, it's just me and you, and we have the time, so I might as well show you anyways. Adding someone to a shift manually, right? Like your people that you don't really know when they're going to work outside of the current week. You create their shift, right? Put in a daily schedule tile somewhere on the daily schedule form with that new shift that you create. So let's say, for instance, records. Records we'll pretend that records is the shift with the people where we don't really know what they're working outside of the week. If you just click anywhere in that box, you get a menu to the left. It's like a shift menu, and these are all the things that we can do for that shift. We can just add employee to schedule, select our employee, and boom, they're added to the schedule. Now, like when we do that, it defaults to whatever the shift start and end times are. If they're different, say you put in a shift that's 7 to 3, but maybe this person only worked, 7 to 1, I can just click on their name, click Change Schedule Times. I want to check the box next to their name. Say start time 7, end time 15. I click Apply. Now what happens is a set of times get attached to their name. As you can see down here, there are no times. That means that these people are just working whatever the standard records hours are. But this person's working irregular hours. So, that's if you're doing this like once a week, it doesn't take long at all. As you can see, you can get it done in seconds. You just add them to that shift. So if I want to do it for tomorrow, I just go to tomorrow's date and do the same exact thing. It's up to you. Or you could just have them put it in as overtime. It's completely up to you. So are you good with that?
Yes, that makes sense.
All right, well, it was a very quick class. That was all I had for you today. That's really all you have to do for putting people onto the schedule. Like I said, this, for your admin people, it's going to be something that you do once a year. For your patrol people, it's going to be something you do quarterly. And the key things to remember are, obviously, let's go back to that screen. This first date range on the top left is what we're assigning. This is, starting on this date, we're assigning all these people to whatever rotation we put them on until this date.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people get confused with that. Just make sure that, it's for the actual date range that you want. We always want to overwrite schedule entries. We don't want someone popping up on, the day shift and the night shift at the same time because we didn't overwrite their previous schedule. And also, because you're doing your patrol people quarterly, say we did our people from January 1st to March 31st. When we move to, say, April 1st, even though we have this delete schedule entries checked, it's not going to actually delete anything. It's only going to delete whatever was scheduled for that date range we're putting up here. So everything from January to March will still be in there because we're starting after that. So, delete schedule entries will only remove, it's not going to touch anything outside of this date range.
Okay.
All right, good. So do you have any questions for me?
No, I think that'll do it.
Awesome. So I do just want to add, if for any reason, you have, we attached a guide to this go-to training that pretty much walks you through what we discussed today. You're going to have the video, obviously, but we do offer help outs. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's just a one-on-one, 45-minute long session, kind of almost exactly what we did today, except we work directly on your system to help you out with anything, you might be having trouble with. You could sign up for the help outs the same way you signed up for this class.
Sounds good.
All right. All right, well, I'll go ahead and end the meeting and let you get to it, and I'm sure I will be working with you in a future class.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.